Hello everyone and welcome to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down and reviewing The Flash Season 6 Episode 4, otherwise entitled There Will Be Blood, and if you have not seen this episode, make sure you go and do so before proceeding with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. So I am back reviewing The Flash. Yes, I apologize, I've had a couple weeks off from reviewing The Flash, episodes 2 and 3, just as I've said a lot recently. I've just been super busy. It's been hard for me to keep on top of all these reviews, but we are back now for the foreseeable future with this episode 4 review, so let's jump straight into it. So as the title There Will Be Blood will suggest, this is a big episode for Ramsey Rosso, who's of course our big bad for this first half of the season, of course being Bloodwork. Now, this was a big episode for him because he is desperately searching for a cure for his HLH, which is of course a form of cancer that he has developed over the years, and he's basically come to this realization at this point in the episode that he is just unsavable. He cannot be cured. He's given up all hope now at this point. He's tried everything, all outlets have been expressed and things like that. And it's really interesting because I think that this particular villain, like Ramsey as a villain, is one of the most interesting ones we've had on The Flash, because he is desperate. Like, we've seen villains who are menacing, like Zoom and Reverse Flash and things like that. You know, we've seen that many times in the past. But yet have we seen a villain who is so desperate. Like, Ramsey is becoming a villain out of desperation, not because he's a particularly evil guy, not because he has some kind of agenda or a plan. He's just trying to survive. He's trying to live. And I think that's a really interesting angle to take for Bloodwork as a character, because when I heard that Bloodwork was going to be coming into the show, I suspected him to be a lot more evil. But I like the fact that Ramsey is almost a sympathetic villain. And I think that, you know, the desperation that his character has of just trying to stay alive, like everything he does is to stay alive and, you know, keep alive for one more day. I think there's almost a relatable element to that, and I think that that's really good writing for the Flash. And I'm really excited to see where they go with Bloodwork from here. Obviously, this is kind of the episode where he fully becomes Bloodwork. Like, by the end of the episode, you know, Barry and Cisco, they give him that cure, and then it doesn't work. And then he basically realizes that he has to absorb blood. He has to feed on blood of other humans in order to survive. This is where he kind of fully becomes Bloodwork, and I think that this is a really interesting turning point for him. And also, I can't wait to see if they actually do it, if they actually make Ramsey turn into his huge, like, Bloodwork form from the comics. I have a feeling they're doing that. I mean, they are showing hints of it, but I'm really hoping they do that, just because you've got to do it at least once, right? Maybe for the big final fight against Ramsey or something. But yeah, I'm loving Ramsey in this season. I think Senthil Ramamurthy's doing a wonderful job portraying him, and again, just this particular villain, like the style of villain, we've not seen it in a while, or really ever on The Flash, and I think it's creating such an interesting dynamic between him and Barry. Now, the other major storyline going on in this episode is we have Barry and Cisco working with the new Wells, Nash Wells, who is of course introduced in the last episode. This is our new Wells for this season. I didn't obviously review last week's episode, so I didn't really get the chance to say my opinion on Nash Wells. I really like him so far. You know, if you remember last season, in my reviews for last season, it took me quite a while to warm up to Sherlock Wells. I didn't quite warm up to him as quickly, but Nash, he's super likable. He's got a fun personality. I just enjoy the type of character that he is and the way Tom Cavanaugh is playing him, so this is really cool for me. And I like his character overall. I like his sense of personality, his style. I like the way that he's being written. So throwing him in this story with Barry and Cisco, it was fun. Like, Barry and Cisco essentially had to go and steal this, you know, they had to try and steal this cure, and then in return, you know, in return, they would help Nash basically build this new device, which we'll get to at the end. Now, this thing they were looking for was this cure that they gave to Ramsey, because they got to this point where it was like, okay, you know, Barry's like, I need to help Ramsey. Like, if it's the last thing I do, I need to save Ramsey's life. And Nash tells them about this thing that they can actually save Ramsey with. So they have to steal it from this corporation. And of course it doesn't work. But this does lead to some really great dramatic scenes between Barry and Cisco. Because Barry and Cisco very rarely get to do, like, dramatic stuff. Like, the only time they ever really got to do it was in season 3 with the Flashpoint stuff, and that was kind of bad. here it's really interesting because Cisco is he just won't have it. He won't believe that Barry will die, that he has to die in Crisis. He's not buying it. And he actually steals the cure before Barry can find it and says, oh, it's not here, it's gone, they must have already sold it. But he actually stole it because he was going to use it on Barry instead of Ramsey. Really interesting stuff, and I think that Barry, he's kind of setting up Cisco to kind of be the leader of Team Flash after he goes, and I think that this particular storyline is really effective. Like I say, Barry and Cisco, they really don't get to do scenes like this very often, so when they do, it's just really powerful, and this particular scene and this particular storyline, this element, works really well for these two characters in this particular situation. Even Ralph had a little mini story arc in this particular episode. Ralph is not taking to the news of Barry dying in Crisis well. Basically, this whole case he's been dealing with since the summer of Sue Dearborn, who's of course Sue Dibney, he's basically given up on it. He said, what's the point? If Barry, why should I help this one random person who I don't know when I could be trying to help Barry? It's interesting. It's not a huge part of the episode, but I think it works really well for Ralph's character because Ralph has really become such a long way since season 4 when we first met him. And I like the conversations he's having. Like with Iris, he's very, standoffish with her. And then I love the conversation he has with Joe. Joe is kind of the MVP of this episode. But when he comes in and he speaks to him, you get to sort of see some of the history because obviously Joe has known Ralph for a really long time. He was in the police force with him and things like that. So they've known each other for a really long time. They have a really nice conversation about it. And, because Joe's not taking it well either, but I think it's really good to see that Ralph kind of gets to reflect on that. And I think that his particular storyline, it gives him kind of the kick up the arse he needs to go and get back onto the Sue Dearborn case. And of course, we do get that great line where he says, it's not the biggest mystery in the world. It's not like I'm trying to get married, which is, of course, a hint to the fact that him and Sue probably will get married. Probably not this season, but maybe next season or something. We'll see that happen. So that's really fun. So I really like the storyline with Ralph. And again, it just shows how much he cares about Barry and how far he's come since we met him in season 4. Now, the Barry and Joe scene at the end of this episode was absolutely phenomenal. When was the last time we got a great Barry and Joe scene like this? A great father and son scene. Jesse L. Martin's acting in the scene was absolutely top notch, as was Grant Gustin's. Like, their chemistry is amazing. And seeing this scene where they are both essentially crying their eyes out was really sad. I was absolutely bawling with tears watching this. It's been a while since I've cried like that at The Flash. And I knew as soon as this scene started, I was like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like, not suck in the way that the scene was gonna be bad, but it sucks for me because I know I was gonna be crying by the end of it. And I was absolutely in tears. What I liked about it as well is that it wasn't the fact that, oh, Joe's sad because Barry's gonna die. Because obviously that was there. But Joe was kind of more angry at the fact that, he was saying, I'm a cop, I sacrifice my life every day, I put my life on the line every day for 30 years, what do I get? I get to retire, spend time with the love of my life, see my daughter grow up, etc. And you as the Flash, you've done more than the CCPD has ever done put together, and then what do you get? You just have to die. He's angry at the fact that that is what Barry has to get in order to, save more lives. He's angry that his kind of death, his demise comes in the form of saving people, and it's not fair. And it's fantastic. It's brilliantly written, it's brilliantly acted, and just, it gets to the point where just Barry and Joe are just holding each other in each other's arms, just crying, and it completely got me. Like, I was so sad watching it. Because again, these father and son scenes between Barry and Joe, we rarely get them anymore, and, just finally getting to get one, it's just fantastic. And again, I give all the credit to the showrunner, Eric Wallace, who's just, giving us all these scenes, with all these interactions with characters we never normally get. Like I say, Barry and Joe, we've not had a scene with them in such a long time. And even, Ralph and Iris, Ralph and Joe, just all these interactions, they're fantastic. And this particular one, again, this might honestly be my favorite scene of the season so far. It's so powerful, it was so raw, and I really felt it. And the little cliffhanger scene we got at the end, we saw Nash Wells using the chip that Cisco made for him. He's tracking something. Obviously, we saw him kind of find this manhole at the end of the last episode. And as he goes in there, he actually is tracking the monitor. And he finds that the monitor actually has a little hidey hole, which he's been living in for the last few months or so. And he actually starts hacking away at the walls. So Nash has actually found where the monitor is hanging out. this could be very interesting. Like, one of my big questions surrounding Nash Wells is he Pariah? Obviously, we know that Pariah is going to be a big part of the Crisis crossover. We know he's in it. We know Tom Cavanaugh is playing him. And, you know, my big question now is this Wells, is this Pariah, or is he going to become Pariah? Because I believe it has been confirmed that this version of Wells is going to continue on past Crisis in Season 6, which makes me think that, you know, this isn't Pariah, especially because I believe Pariah probably would die in Crisis. But it's very interesting that he seems to be so heavily connected to the Monitor and so heavily connected to this Crisis. The fact that he finds this base, you know, underneath Central City. Who knows where it's going to go? Who knows what he's going to find in there? Like, I'm very interested to see what's actually in that room. So it's very cool. It's very exciting. And again, I think it just adds even more, you know, coolness and more mystery to the character of Nash Wells, who I already really like at this point in the season. So very cool. Again, more Crisis setup, more Crisis teasers. We're getting closer. We're only about 6 weeks away or so, or 5 weeks away. So it's getting closer, guys. A Crisis is coming. Overall, though, another great episode for The Flash this week. Again, I didn't review episodes 2 or 3, but I just want to say overall, I think that The Flash Season 6 so far has been absolutely fantastic. Easily the best the show has been since Season 2. It's just constantly knocking it out of the park week after week. Eric Wallace is just killing it as the showrunner this season. Absolutely fantastic job at, you know, really making the season fresh and exciting. And dark as well. Like, this season feels really dark, and I like that. Not dark in the way that Season 3 was, but dark in a way that feels great, and I really like that. All the scenes we're getting, the character interactions we're getting, it just feels so right, and I'm just loving it so far. And this particular episode, again, was a great episode for Ramsey, really developing him as a villain. We've got some flashbacks with him. I forgot to mention that. We've got some flashbacks with him, which, again, just kind of added some more depth to him. He's a great villain for me so far, and I like the fact that obviously he's only going to be the villain in this first half of the season. They're not going to stretch him out to a 22-episode arc. They're just going to keep him for like 9-10 episodes. Very good. And again, the emotion in this episode between Barry and Cisco, Barry and Ralph, Ralph and Joe, Barry and Joe. It was just a very emotional episode, and for me, this was a fantastic one overall. So thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV and get them to join the community. And as always, guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said, guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.